Hey everybody, this is a video about my 5 basic rules for good posture. You can follow these to maintain your posture or correct it. Now I'm saying good posture, not perfect posture, because we're not looking for perfection. Not everybody can have a perfect posture. We are really all in various states of decay. Some of us have scoliosis or spinal degeneration or other issues that make posture more difficult. However, in almost every case, posture can be improved, movement, functioning can be improved, and the process of degeneration can be slowed or stopped. And for most people, I think this is sufficient. So in general, good posture should be attractive, where we look tall regardless of our height, with an air of lightness and confidence. Contrast that with poor posture. Poor posture is depressive. There's a feeling of heaviness and a lack of ease, like the stress of the world just drove over us. We look shorter and compressed. We feel compressed. With poor posture, we're hiding from the world, we're contracting. And because of our head and neck alignment, we're looking down towards the ground instead of straight ahead. We see the world differently with poor posture. We stop looking people in the eye and we stop looking at the horizon. Instead, we see more of the ground and less of each other's faces. Poor posture is like living less of an existence. With poor posture, our shoulders round forward, aligning our arms with the front of our body in a defensive posture like a boxer, blocking their front. Neurologically, we're more in a state of fight or flight, and it's a physical expression of survival mode. It's not confident, it's fearful. With good posture, we look straight ahead at the world around us and we're open. Our shoulders relax and drop down naturally. Our head is over our shoulders, not falling forward. We can breathe deeply. This is reflected in our psychology too. We're more open to new experience. We're more adaptable to the stress of life. We have mental and physical flexibility. And that's because proper posture is associated with a healthier frontal cortex of the brain, the area in charge of emotional regulation. As we age, poor posture has even been associated with higher rates of morbidity or sickness and mortality, death, in large-scale studies. Poor posture slowly makes life less fun, more painful, and shorter. Okay, poor posture is bad, good posture is good. You get the idea. So here are my top 5 basic rules for correct posture. Rule number 1, good posture is only possible with normal spinal movement and normal spinal curves. That means a cervical lordosis, thoracic kyphosis, and a lumbar lordosis, whether we are sitting, standing, or laying down. Spinal movement. This is why it is so important to get your spine checked by a chiropractor. They check how your spine is moving, and the adjustment is to restore movement that's been lost or movement that's become incorrect in its pattern. The spine and pelvis have a pattern of movement, and it can go bad. Okay, rule number 2, good posture should be automatic, where you don't have to try to think about it consciously. That's because it won't work. You've got other things to do and think about, so this has to be automatic. For that to happen, we need more than just a normal spine. We also need normal brain-body communication for this thing called proprioception. Now we're getting into the nervous system a little bit. Proprioception, that's a key concept. This is your brain's ability to know where your body is in 3D space. So I want you to try something. Close your eyes, put your arms behind your back, and make a peace symbol with your fingers. Now how do you know and feel that your arm is there behind your back and what your fingers are doing? That's proprioception. And it's happening constantly on a macro and micro level all the time. This even happens inside spinal joints. It represents an enormous amount of information flowing from body to brain, brain to body. And we also need normal vestibular function. With vestibular function, we're talking about balance and coordination, basically. So let's try a little test for vestibular function. And if you have balance issues, please get a friend to help you with this by standing next to you in case you lose your balance. So try this. Stand with your arms out straight. Now close your eyes. Now march in place for 30 seconds. Don't fall. If this is difficult or you move around a lot, your vestibular system is having trouble. Chiropractic adjustments help restore this vestibular function while removing the subluxation. That's the spinal dysfunction that interrupts the normal brain-body communication, and it can interfere with normal bodily processes. So again, arms out straight, marching in place, eyes closed, and let's see what happens. Do you start to get wobbly? Are you marching and then kind of moving around all over the place? Are you marching and marching and marching, marching right out of the way? This is what we want to see. If you have trouble with this, it's a strong indicator that your vestibular system is struggling. Okay, rule number 3. Good posture cannot be forced with braces or supports, which could pull your shoulders back while worsening your head position and doing nothing to correct spinal curves. The ligaments holding your spine together are as strong as iron cables. So how's a few cotton straps going to remodel that? Spoiler alert, they won't. Worse still, whatever we brace gets weaker, which means our spinal muscles will actually get weaker. We want the opposite. We want to get stronger, not weaker. So we definitely do not recommend posture braces or vests. Okay, rule number 4, our golden rule for seated posture. When we are seated and active, such as working at a desk, we should sit to the front of a chair with a hip angle greater than 120 degrees. Without that hip angle, there is no hope for good seated posture because our leg alignment will create a backward force on our pelvis, pushing us into a posterior pelvic tilt, which will remove the curve in the lower back, the lordosis that we need for good posture, and the lordosis we need to support the rest of the spine. Now, you may have heard something different from an ergonomics expert in your company or at a seminar. I don't know what they're thinking, but I hear this often. They recommended a stool under my feet or a 90-degree angle at the hips and knees. I'm speechless. Okay, rule number 5. A slouched posture when seated or standing increases the pressure on the lower cervical and lower lumbar areas, leading to muscle strain and tension, and over the years may lead to advanced spinal degeneration and disc damage and worsening symptoms. This is for many people the primary cause of their backache and other pains. This posture could also create lumbar disc herniations. Why? Well, when we lose the curve, like in our low back, more pressure gets put on the front of the vertebrae. When you squeeze the vertebrae there, what's the disc going to do? Push out the other end. And that's exactly what happens in a disc herniation. Okay, last thing, not really a rule, but more of a complaint on my part, but it's got to be said and repeated, that to merely remove your pain without correcting the cause, for example, poor postural alignment, this, in my opinion, would be a malpractice and a terrible disservice to you and the public. What we have here are primary and secondary problems. Primary problem is the spinal dysfunction from poor posture. The secondary problem is your pain and stiffness and various aches and pains. So if we take a pill, potion, lotion, we're just treating the secondary problem. Merely treating symptoms is never ending. It's like a dog chasing its tail. Imagine if we took away your pain, but left the problem there to get worse over time. That would be terrible. But that's exactly what we do when we just pop a pill. We get rid of the pain and we leave the problem there to fester and make our spine rot over time. So for this process to work, we need time and discipline. How are we going to get our posture fixed? The answer is through a process of restoring normal spinal motion and alignment with a combination of specific chiropractic adjustments, corrective exercises to do at home, very, very important, and in more difficult cases with the use of spinal orthotics. If you need one of these, we'll discuss that in another video. We have a process that corrects posture, that works, but it requires your time and commitment. We can't do the home exercises for you, and we can't drag you in here for adjustments, but honestly, I think this process is pretty easy. Another thing, vestibular function, proprioception, these big ideas. How do we improve those? Well, there are specific exercises for these things, and that would be maybe a nice thing for another video, but for right now, more simply, are you walking? Are you moving? Are you doing 3 to 5 kilometers on your feet per day outside? Start there. Start with the simple stuff. And once you've got that down, well, your vestibular function and your proprioception is going to get a lot better. And in combination with adjustments, even more so. And then if you need any additional help with it, yes, we do have specific exercises that can take you even further. So be sure to check out our other videos on, for example, our favorite home exercises for restoring your posture, and get started. If you have any questions, send them to me.